For most of human history, and perhaps even before, if you didn't understand the story, you probably didn't survive. Stories by the fireside bring comfort and understanding to the chaos, and while the fire may have evolved into vibrantly lit screens, the ritual remains at the digital campfire. So that's the sentiment that we'll be leading with today. Hello, welcome. Welcome to episode 1. We're here in the new mansion. It's decorated for Christmas. Happy holidays, everyone. Ah, beautiful. So I would like to welcome you to Comfort and Chaos. Glad you're here. I want to talk to you about something very old, some things humans have done for as long as we've gathered together, which is telling stories. Before there were books or screens or even written language, there were people sitting near a fire, sharing moments, memories, and meanings. Stories helped us explain the world, remember who we are, and feel less alone in the dark. This season, I'm thinking of this space as a digital campfire, a place to slow down, get comfortable, and explore ideas without rushing to conclusions. So wherever you are listening from, take a breath. I'm going to take one too, and let's talk about why we tell stories. And then something that I would like to do, a little ritual for us, is share a little snack, a little drink. I think that this speaks a lot to, people's comfort, which speaks to people's cultures. You can see that differences all across the world.
How can I assist
you?
So,
I'm going to share with you what I'm drinking. Now, I haven't tasted this yet, so I'm going to give you an honest impression. We are drinking a tea called Christmas in Paris. So very appropriate that we're here with our Christmas decorations. I love that. I love that. In fact, here, we'll back out of here so we can stand by the Christmas tree. I love that. I love that. It's not Paris, but hey, And then I'm not going to say the brand of the tea because I'm not sponsored by anyone, but I will read the description. I love the description of tea on a tea box. It says, Christmas in Paris, herbal tea. One sip of this aromatic blend will have you wandering through the snow-covered cobblestone alleys of Paris. Get lost in the rich, chocolatey flavor, swirled with cool mint and a touch of lavender. It does say it's made with cocoa shells, peppermint, lavender, natural chocolate flavor, and vanilla extract. Now, I tried this kind of by itself the first time, and it's pretty herb-ish. And I kind of wanted to bring out some of the chocolate and the vanilla, so I experimented today. Little ASMR, little clickety-clack. So I mixed it with just 1 tablespoon of hot cocoa mix. Again, not branded. We're not going to say brands. And then I threw in a oat milk creamer. That is a oatmeal cookie flavor. Kind of bring out some of those nutty vanilla and the chocolate. So kind of mixed it all together. Let's see. Honest impression. We're going. Okay. Yeah, it did what I wanted it to do. I can still taste the tea, but it definitely has more of a chocolate and vanilla. Okay. I can vibe with that. That's good. Glad I did that. Okay. But yes. So, speaking of Paris, I was thinking about this earlier, my little choice on that, birthplace of human existentialism, which is right on course with what we'll be talking about this season. And if you're not familiar with things like that, there's, the godfather of existentialism. His name was Jean-Paul Sartre, I believe is how it's pronounced in French. I'm not great at speaking French. My mom's doing that on Duolingo, not me. But
right away, Mom.
Some people say Sartre, I believe is closest. Again, I'm butchering the French, forgive me. But he is the, like I said, the godfather of modern existentialism. And he has a famous play called No Exit. There's about three people meeting each other sort of in a purgatory of sorts. They're not quite heaven, not quite in hell. They're awaiting judgment. And you can almost think of it like a doctor's office waiting room to the ethereal maker. And in that, these three individuals kind of share their stories, and they reflect on each other's lives. And a famous tagline, you could say, sort of his tagline to his whole career, is "Hell is other people." I love that line. I want it on a t-shirt. Hell is other people. And basically the moral of the story there in No Exit is that we can think what we want of ourselves. We can move as authentically or inauthentically as we might think we're doing. But at the end of the day, we can never escape each other's perceptions of us. And as someone who just recently quit working in customer service, I can tell you that's definitely been part of my existential crisis throughout this year. Oh, it's decorated in here too. Aw, cute. I didn't know that happened. Okay. Oh my gosh. Full disclosure, I didn't used to play GTA Online. I've only ever played story mode. This is kind of my first holiday season. Well, this is just precious. Oh, it looks beautiful in here. I love it. Because it's like more dimly lit. Anywho, but yes, Jean-Paul Sartre, Hell is other people. Basically, human perception is our biggest enemy, right? Because there's how we perceive ourselves and how we think we might be moving or coming across, and then there's those pesky judgments and observations of other people. Just coming back to bite us in the ass now, don't it? Speaking of asses, get this asshole out of here. What you doing? Lurking around? Get out of here. One interesting thing about the nightclubs that's always, very realistic, but also a little unnerving, is that, basically the poors, the paupers, the people on the first floor, they get thrown out on the street into the gutter treatment, and, the VIP, the elites, they get, driven back to their private residence in a limo. So, yeah, that's humanity, isn't it? So welcome again. This is going to be kind of a new half Twitch stream, half podcast. I'm really just trying to develop a new brand of space to kind of, gather and talk. Think of it like a digital campfire. That'll be the name of season 1. So I've got about 10 episodes sort of planned out. I would like to do one every week. I'm going to be developing some guest segments so that I have some co-hosts from time to time. So yeah, welcome to episode 1, Why We Tell Stories. And welcome. If you just want to sit back and enjoy whatever chaos we can get into, that's totally understandable. If you want to join in the conversation, feel free in the chat. If anything inspires you, or you have any questions about anything, or if you know of any cool, works of art, literature, etc., feel free to jump in the comments and share. I'm going to keep the gameplay rather light. And first and foremost, one thing that I really like to do just for good, steady flow of income, profit, aside from the obvious, which is the nightclub, which we just took care of. I don't honestly even do the vehicle heist from the salvage yard anymore. Pretty much just tow the cars for scrap parts. Could be a great little revenue stream, right? Okay. And you can only tow two cars that they can scrap the parts on at a time. And then it only takes, I always forget, maybe 5-10 minutes in game for them to turn that around. And I'm pretty sure I've gotten anywhere from 70 to 90K on average. And as long as you're playing, you come back and tow these cars over and over again, you know. Okay. So why? Why do humans tell stories, right? Early stories, you know, pass down knowledge, danger, food, and values, right? So we can kind of imagine ourselves in the early time, and you know, I think every animal and creature on the planet obviously has some way of passing down, you know, information, right? But there is sort of this magical, you know, different. There's something about us that seems to set us apart from the rest of the animal kingdom, and I think that's, you know, most people's problem. You know, with the idea of evolution, right? You know, certainly goes against some folks, you know, religious beliefs, and you know, years ago when I was studying anthropology, was to always respect everyone's cultures, right? Respect everyone's points of view. So that's kind of first and foremost. We call it cultural relativity. So I am a, you know, big lover of just hearing what everyone has to bring to the table. And one thing that struck me is that people are always looking for patterns, right? Why do people do the things that they do? And I think there's a lot of motivating factors that we can dig into, and I plan on digging into over the course of this season. But yes, no, stories were often cautionary tales or just, you know, mythologies, ways to explain the chaos in the world around. Again, looking for patterns, observations. This is what's core to humans and the way our brains work, right? And what maybe some could argue might set us apart from other animals. So really the storytelling aspect of all of that is core and fundamental to really everything that we do, right? Like I said at the beginning of the episode, if you didn't heed the warnings, right, if you didn't understand what was going on in the story, you likely were not going to get the warning you needed to get, right? Also, GPS directions on this little car here, not great at all. So again, chaos. We can be given directions, like the game just gave us directions, right? But they were poor directions. So, you know, that being said, take everything with a grain of salt, I guess, because stories can guide us. They can provide truths. They can provide understanding. But I think it's also important to remember stories can also lead us astray. Like right now, where the hell is this car? You will find if you start dabbling in these missions, that this can be the worst part of them, getting really, really bad directions. Yeah, here we go. That's some bullshit. Anywho, so over the course of the season, we'll be digging into different ways people tell stories, different cultures. You know, I think it'll be really easy to kind of tie in a lot of Greek mythology, especially to a game like GTA. Oh, cops are on me. Cops are on me. They're mad. This doesn't always happen, but you will get the cops on you sometimes, because technically I do not have permission to acquire says vehicle, and I was not given permission to scrap it for parts. Right. Let's see. Will we evade the cops? Can't catch me, coppers. But yes, games, they present you with the option of choice, right? Oh, he's gonna get me. Nope, nope. Yes. Yes. Haha. And I have been rewarded. It's rewarded. Even though it would have been very easy to find me, and I'm here right now. But see, here we go. This is a perfect example of how video games are a safe storytelling space. We've had resolve to this little story here. Right? The resolve is the cops have decided they can't find me. And due to the fact that it is a video game and not real life, they are completely blind to the fact that the person they were just looking for is running right past them, and then they decide to give up. Obviously, in real life, that would not have worked out for me. I would have been recognized as soon as I came out from my hiding space. But the beauty is that this is a video game, so I can run right back and continue my little mission here. But that's exactly a beautiful example of how, stories that we tell, that we create, they have a story arc, right? Beginning, middle, end. They have a resolve. They bring comfort. They bring closure to the lesson at hand. They usually tell you some kind of... Ooh! Oh! No! Oh my goodness. Well, that was... They usually give you some kind of insight into what the right or wrong choice may be in a situation. Can you guys move? Can you guys move? Right? So they bring... they bring into... Did I collect it? Yes. Yes, it did. Stories always bring into the frame the question of morality, right? Think of like mythologies with heroes, and it always reflects where in time that society is, right? Because the actions of a hero in one time period might be seen as noble and awesome and righteous and all these beautiful things, and then a few centuries later, a few generations later, depending on how society may or may not have changed, how a culture may or may not have changed, what culture's coming and taking over, suddenly the morality can shift of the same story. So stories don't change, but the morality of the stories can change. So again, back to human perception, the complexities of all of that. Stories bring, some type of closure, right? Some kind of resolve, and real life doesn't. It's important to remember that, every aspect of human culture is an adaptation to our environment. Even things that we may see as like entertaining or frivolous, like art, they're all survival tools, right? Every single one of them is a survival tool to figure out how to perpetuate ourselves and our species into the next generation. And when we play a game like GTA, again, it's a story of survival. It's kind of the survival of the fittest, especially if you're playing publicly online with many other players. Right now, I am playing in a closed lobby because I just want to focus on our conversation here. But should you choose to go in more public spaces, you really feel that good old Darwin survival of the fittest, right? For better or for worse. And in general, whether you're playing with other people or just playing by yourself, the whole point of this game is sort of to be the anti-hero, right? It's not so much about what's right or wrong or good or evil. The whole premise of GTA is supposed to find truth. In a weird way, I think it is, and I've always believed this. I think the anti-heroes in the stories, right? The Han Solos and characters like that, that aren't your stereotypical heroes. Right? They help us find more of a truth by finding more of a middle ground between right and wrong, what you should and shouldn't do. And I think GTA really embodies that. It's one of the reasons I'm a huge fan of this franchise. I think it's a lot more intelligent and intellectual than people give it credit for. I think the people who write the narratives behind this game, shout out to them, kudos. I see a lot of just really intelligent, themes and sub themes, and so I think it's the perfect little combination of factors to create an environment where we can just sit and reflect on what makes us who we are. And honestly, this game is one of the best places to come for just really digging into what makes humans human, right? Again, for better or for worse. It's basically the Wild West of human interaction. And what's really interesting, too, is often it's physical nonverbal interaction, which we can get into more in a later episode. But these are all going to be things that we'll be covering over the course of the season, just kind of introducing some of these ideas now. But again, just a really safe space to explore. There's no right or wrong answers around here. It's good to be curious. It's good to listen. But yeah, when it comes to criminal activity and morality and the difference between right and wrong, a big question, and if you're watching and you want to chime in and chat, you're more than welcome to answer this question. But a big question that we'll be asking all season is, why does this feel okay in a game, right? Because I think in real life, obviously, my moral compass would be to not rip off people's cars and go scrap them for parts. No judgments if that's things you do for a living. But my personal moral compass would guide me in my everyday life to not do those things. This being like a role-playing game. The roles that you play, again, ties into this big existential question, right? Who is the real us? How do we put our most authentic selves out there? I'm a huge Shakespeare fan, and one quote that I live by, probably the quote that I live by, it's actually on my front door, on the inside, so every time I'm leaving my house, I'm reminded of this as I step outside. But it is a rather famous Shakespeare quote, you've probably heard it, but it's, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. Now, this is the bit that usually gets clipped and turned into a nice little concise quote, right? But it goes on after that into a long, lengthy monologue talking about different stages of life and, what each one means and the wisdom that you gain. It kind of comes down to this idea of 7. 7 being kind of a holy number, definitely regarded as having kind of a sort of magic or a certain power to it. But it was kind of like 7 stages of life, so from infancy, toddler, childhood, adolescence, young adulthood, middle-aged, I believe to, elder. I think that's 7. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you get the picture, right? But yeah, we have these life stages, right? And he also compares them to the seasons, right? Each one has a different temperature, a different vibe. But again, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. The main thing kind of ties into the other quote I mentioned, which is hell is other people. You can kind of use those together. All the world's a stage, and hell is other people. How about that? So we're all just performing something. We're putting out there what we want the world to see, Otherwise it would be done in private. Right? We only do those things in private that we would really just choose to keep to ourselves. Right? Everything that we do outside of privacy is what we're choosing to broadcast, project, portray, etc., etc. Those are just kind of some heady, out there, existential questions, about finding your own authenticity, your own moral compass. You explore it through this game. You're role-playing, right? You're creating the story as you're playing this game. It's a really, it's a safe space to kind of explore those deepest, darkest desires. And admittedly, there are some people out there that play this game that have some exceptionally deep and dark desires. I've also found that there's a lot of really, really, really amazing people in this community, and the people that I've, you know, chosen to connect with, and you guys know who you are out there. If you're listening, if you're watching, a lot of people I've met through Instagram and had the pleasure to collab with. It's really been great to find a sense of community. It was something I was just kind of looking for in my personal life anyway. I found it here, and so yeah, this is just going to be kind of a fun project to explore that, share that with the world, and I guess you could say my main goal would be to bring a little understanding and a little reflection. And speaking of stories, there's some real science behind the human mind, and I think there's kind of this debate out there of what's more important, the logical brain, the emotional brain. This has been used a lot of times to keep people of color down, to keep women and other minorities down. Usually the person trying to take control and manipulate that situation is going to say something along the lines, they're going to poke, and they're going to say something along the lines of, oh, look, they're emotional, there's no logic. Whee! And the truth is, the truth is, you are not going to be very likely to remember something if there's not an emotional trigger. So, just some of the basic neurology on that. I'm not a scientist. I'm just someone who likes this stuff. Anywho, with that little part of your brain, it's your emotional part, right? It's not your fight or flight. It's not your core lizard, base brain. It's your middle between that and your logical neocortex in the front of your brain, the part that gives us logic and reasoning, etc., etc. But that logic and that reasoning can't be fleshed out without being able to remember what you've learned, right? Whether it be from a story, an observation of a pattern, etc., etc., etc. So the only way our brain, like a computer, is going to keep track of that is if it has a strong emotional tag, right? It has to inspire you, it has to motivate you, it has to ring true to you, it has to give you some kind of emotional response, some little burst of dopamine and chemicals in your brain for it to actually be tracked as a memory. Otherwise, your brain's going to dump it when you go to sleep at night. That's the science of how your brain works. It's much like a computer. You know about computers. I'm sure most gamers do. The brain works very, very similarly. And it's going to choose what to dump and what not to dump. I think it's important to remember that memory sticks better when wrapped in a narrative. So again, storytelling. Very fundamental to being a human. Very fundamental in how we observe each other, observe patterns in each other, help us survive as groups. You might have a clan or a group of people that you're cool with, a tribe, if you will. Same thing in this game. And you might have ops. You might have people that don't feel aligned with you in that way, right? So, again, it's just it's an important way of how we stay connected. So, again, we're answering why we tell stories on a deeper level. It's not just for entertainment. It's not just for shock value. It really is core to us surviving, existing, and navigating our reality. Right? And so, yeah. I need to clear out some of my space here because now I love.
See ya.
What is this doing here? I need to move some stuff. I think I'm going to move you. Okay. what I wouldn't give for that fence to not scratch my car. Okay, now admittedly, a lot of what we're doing in game today isn't actually that illegal. As far as law is concerned, we've stayed relatively within a standard of law, which is interesting. Beep. Bink. And then another thing that we'll kind of be exploring as the season goes by, it'll be really interesting to do some cross comparing on the story mode characters. What's really interesting about GTA 5 in particular, and the three characters that come, with our story mode narrative, is, we've kind of got three heroes or anti-heroes, right? And if you do know a lot of, classic literature, whether it be Greek or French or Shakespeare or any of that, you'll know that these archetypes or tropes or whatever you want to call them are, pretty, I would say actually universal. I think a lot of cultures have a lot of these types of characters, right? A lot of tribal myths, but yeah, it'll be really interesting to kind of cross compare the three main story mode characters, right? So one interesting little kind of deduction you can make is that we've got Michael as kind of the tragic hero, right? So he's got strength and flaw, no clean redemption, right? He kind of is always trying to do what's right, always thinking he's right, right? But just, cannot get out of tragedy's way, right? And then you've got the trickster, which would be Trevor. And the trickster archetype not only is one of my personal favorites, right? Especially when it comes to the anti-hero, but is also one that is really, really fascinating when you study trickster characters cross-culturally, right? Whether it be, different tribes around the world, or even just within, northern Native American tribes. But yes, the trickster kind of has a little bit of a universal thing in that chaos reveals truth. And obviously, by the title of our little podcast here, we're all about finding that truth in the chaos. And again, I think the anti-hero really searches for truth, as they say, with a capital T. And that kind of further supports my point. I really feel like GTA is a search for a truth, right? When it comes to laws and morality, all those lines break down here. It's really up to how you, the player, role play and explore those themes, which is really fascinating to me. And I think a lot to be learned there when you do want to study humanity and why we do the things that we do. I think GTA is a great place for that, for exploring all those things, right? Respray, what color do they want? Torino red. But yeah, so Trevor, the trickster, chaos reveals truth. Also, just one of my favorite characters, like, not just within GTA, but like all of movies, comic books, whatever books, like the character of Trevor, I'm a huge fan. And the voice of Trevor, Stephen Ogg, also just a really, really cool person to follow if you don't already follow him on Instagram. Really, really cool, just kind of avant-garde, poetry and stuff that he explores on his channel. But yeah, I think he would agree, and probably why he finds the characterization of Trevor so endearing. Is that, yeah, he's that ultimate trickster, that truth-revealing chaos. I love Trevor. I love him. And then we've got good old Frankie, Mr. Franklin. He is the reluctant survivor. He wants out, but he's still trapped. And all of these characters definitely hold space in Greek mythology. Um, you can compare, especially the tragic hero, to characters like Oedipus and Agamemnon, tricksters, especially within the Dionysian realms. Um, and then you know, the reluctancy of Franklin to survive it all. Which then brings us to the end of story mode. Which, I mean, if you're playing online, I'm no spoiler alert. You should know what happens at the end of story mode. But as the player, you are given an interesting set of choices when you finish up on story mode, the final mission of story mode, right? Before you quote unquote expand into your online character, right? And then online picks up maybe 10 years or so past where story mode left off, right? But and again, spoiler alert if you don't know. I don't know how you don't know. I mean, we're almost to GTA 6, so I'm not going to feel bad about this. But at the end of story mode, you're presented with a choice. Franklin is presented with a choice. And essentially, you are given the power to eliminate Michael and or Trevor and or both and or save them, right? Um, and I would venture to guess that most people who play online have probably most likely chosen to save them both. And that choice also, if you have played story mode, isn't as obvious an option. You kind of have to think around the game a little bit to save both of them. It's not going to be a very clear cut, A, B, or C choice, right? But what's interesting when you consider online almost as like this parallel universe, we've gotten to choose how the story ends when you finish up story mode, and you get to choose how Franklin feels about his, and what's really interesting too. Sorry, side note. One thing that I love about the trio and the classic sort of literary, tool of the three of them is if you not only have the master and the apprentice, but then in comes sort of the failed apprentice, right? The master's previous apprentice, the one that went awry, went stray, and brings nothing but chaos, right? This is classic in kung fu movies, you know, all of it, all of these stories, right? Um, and then yes, the newest predecessor, the newest apprentice, he can either choose to eliminate them both or save them both. If you think of online mode as this parallel universe 10 years later, depending on the choices you made in at the end of story mode, now you get to develop your own character. So not only are you telling the story and choosing how the story, resolves itself, but then you get to transcend into telling your own original story with your own original character. But yes, you start online mode 10 years later. You've created your own story, uh, your own variation of things in the same environment, right? Is boy breaks. And then, and this is what's really, really interesting. We've got, 12 years essentially of GTA 5 being out. We've just had a very big update in the last week, the big mansion update that was, very anticipated. It was a big one. I think was very well done. My personal opinion, well done. I think it was executed pretty well by the gaming developers. I think a lot of people's criticisms are, there's a lot of things, gameplay options in the mansions that are just essentially available at other properties or other spaces in the game. So that kind of felt like, I guess, a rip-off of sorts. They wanted a little bit more newness. But in defense of that, the mansions do come with exercise equipment, so that's a new functionality that we didn't have, which harkens back to the original GTA San Andreas, where you could work out. As an old diehard fan of that, I'm a little bit older. That was the it game when I graduated high school and was in my early 20s, played with my friends, didn't even have online mode when that came out. But, kind of getting to work out again is a fun little nostalgic nod to players like me. And then a really big one that kind of hit me in the heartstrings was the pet update. the pet aspect of the mansions, because I was actually able to put my personal, pet, who is no longer with us, who was kind of my, soulmate of sorts, Chopper. But I got to put him in the game. And if you watched my live stream buying my mansion, you got to see me get a little emotional putting my Chop Chop in the game for all eternity. But anyway, and I named him Chopper also, by the way, before GTA 5 came out. So he's the original Chopper, not the Rottweiler Chopper in the game. Just saying, my Chopper is king. Okay. But anyway, I was able to finally put him in the game for real. Looks just like him, a little cute little tuxedo cat. So for me, the mansion update brought something very, very personal. Everyone's going to have their differences of opinions, but I give it a 10 out of 10 as far as game updates go. Anyway, carbon stock. Why can't? Oh, there it is. Vendors, primary wines. I'm gonna get through. Roof, wood, vinyl roof. Oh, this is actually kind of cute. I like it with the little vinyl. That's kind of cute. Italia. Meep meep. But yeah, no, so very, very interesting, that we're right on the horizon of GTA 6 coming out. Big controversy. They've delayed it yet again. It's probably not going to be out for a solid year now. That was a big upset to the community, that we got about a month ago. And so I think there was a lot going into this mansion update. I think a lot of players were really, really demanding that this enhance the game. And I think it did. I think it enhanced the role play and the storytelling depending on how you use them. And I'm excited to see what people come up with. But, we're coming up on this big anticipated evolution, the next evolution into GTA 6. We're leaving the West Coast, going to the East Coast. The mansion update comes out, and then as one final sort of closure and conclusion to everything going on, the big sort of surprise with the mansions is that we finally have Michael in online mode. So up until now, for like a decade now, essentially we've had evidence of Franklin existing, evidence of Trevor existing, but we have not had any hard evidence of Michael existing. We've seen his kids, the son is in the arcade, right? And it's always been very ambiguous. It's not like we ever hear him say like, "Oh, when my dad died," or da da da. So we've really gotten very vague little hints and clues, because I think we as the players are kind of like, okay, we want to keep maybe Michael and Trevor alive at the end of story mode. We want Franklin to save them both, but what did the game developers decide was the choice we were all supposed to make, right? So that's kind of that fun little sort of back and forth eyeball with the game developers and the players, because I think the players kind of look at the game developers and like, ooh, did I get it right? Did I get the right answer? Is that what you guys wanted us to pick? So there's kind of this cat and mouse that I think is really fun, and I think is really unique about the video gaming industry and its connection with its consumer market. And I think the more that these corporations realize that, accepting sponsorships, the more both will thrive. But yeah, so I think it's really, really interesting and a fun sort of cinematic closure, a big grand finale to all of this. That we've got our mansion updates, and dun 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 dun, Michael is alive, and still out there kicking and making moves, and comes in kind of heavy at you, just walking up into your house in the cutscene to open up the mansion. So I thought that narrative and that storyline, and I mean, to build that up over 10 years, I mean, I can only imagine the game developers on the other end. They're, sitting there thinking like, oh, how are we going to wrap this up? Are we going to bring Michael to life? Is he going to be there? So anyway, I just thought all of that buildup was really, really clever, really, really well crafted, really fun to kind of participate in. Really makes gamers feel like they're a part of the story. And I think that's, I think that's really crucial to humanity. And I think that there's a big opportunity for this to be a really unique space to reflect with each other, to get to know each other, globally, to share culture with one another. A lot of these players that I'm meeting on Instagram and out there in the world, you guys are from different countries, from all over the world, and it's just, it's a really, really, really cool social experiment. And I hope you're enjoying my little podcast here so far. I really look forward to developing this space and having some other people, come join me so we can talk about some fun things and just explore and discover together. So, again, thank you. Thank you for coming by. This is going to be put on YouTube. Don't know how much I'm going to necessarily edit it down. I might edit it down a little bit. But for the most part, this is kind of like I said, a little experimental brand of entertainment. Like I said, it's half Twitch stream, half gaming stream, half podcast, and yeah, I just really hope that we can have some fun gathering and having some conversations. So wherever you find this, if you find this, if there's anything you want to, talk about or see me cover, would love to hear it. Let's see, I want to give this a better wheel color. Salmon pink, that's crazy. That's crazy. I kind of like carbon black. Yeah, it's okay. It's good. It's happy. So we're going to kind of wrap things up here soon. After we deliver this little car. I should not. I don't want to scratch it. Oh my god. Oh my god, why did I do this? Why did I do this? But yes, we will be definitely having some fun looking at character archetypes and what they mean and what they mean to morality, how we view morality, how societies view morality, how societies build their heroes or their anti-heroes. And I think it's safe to assume if you're a fan of GTA, you usually idolize the characters that come out of it. I think we all love good old Carl Johnson of San Andreas. I think we're all really looking forward to exploring the new characters in GTA 6. Especially it's kind of a win for the women of the world. We finally have a female main protagonist coming up in GTA 6. I think that's a really, really, really just big shift in the gaming community. It has not historically been a space that's very safe for women, and I'm just really proud to see that evolving and to be a part of that movement forward. I'm happy for my daughter. She's a little gamer. Both my kids are little gamers. Just a little happy gamer family. But I'm really excited to kind of be on this forefront. I think we're, the world's a little scary, but I think, truthfully and honestly, that, video games and gamer culture could be, a big key into the future. Personally, I have my own theories that entertainment is really going to go more and more in this direction. Interactive entertainment, virtual reality entertainment. If you're a Star Trek fan, the holodeck, right? I think that's sort of like a human goal, is to be able to create those spaces free from natural disasters, unless you program them in just for a little extra spice, free from the harm and the chaos that can come. It'll just be really interesting to see how humanity evolves in general, the more and more we delve into this kind of virtual avatar existence, right? Again, things will delve deeper in as the season goes on. But yeah, just really really important things to me to explore, because I think we do have a choice in how humanity evolves and how the future looks. Kind of like video games, kind of like how the Greeks viewed the gods, when it comes to free choice and free will. What is choice? What is free will? Again, things we're gonna cover in other episodes a little bit more deeply. So, again, if that's interesting to you, please come join me again and again. Today was just kind of a nice introductory. Really appreciate anyone who came by to listen, and anyone who ends up catching this on YouTube after I upload it. We'll do these live streams on Twitch pretty much probably every Thursday afternoon. Times may vary. Haven't really decided yet. Might depend on if I have a guest or someone to collaborate with. Times may vary, but yeah, follow me on Instagram. Renee_on_GTA is where you can find me there. Both YouTube and Twitch. 8 Renee 8. Renee spelled RENNE. And yeah, I look forward to discovering and evolving, pushing the needle into the future. Again, until next time, I think I'm going to go ahead and end it there. It's been a pleasure. It's been amazing. I look forward to doing this again. And yeah, I guess the big lesson today, the big takeaway is chaos reveals truth. So go ahead and take that with you. Thanks again.